Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Wednesday, October 26th, the year of our Lord 2022. And the IRS is becoming an election issue. It's about time, don't you think? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Won't you join us? So the GOP is starting to talk about the IRS. I think it's resonating. I think a lot of people want to hear about this. Many people were kind of aghast. I love that word, aghast, to the $80 billion that the Democrats threw at the IRS, and that equates to 87,000 new employees. So they say. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's in the story. And, many people are really taken aback by it. And if the GOP takes over the House, of course, then they have control of the purse strings. And how far can that go? Well, I hope that they find out. I was warning people all along about this. And it looked like it wasn't. How many times did this look like it wasn't going to pass? It was shot down many, many times, and many parts were. For instance, the bank reporting. If you first it was $600 or more went through your bank account, then that account had to be reported to the IRS, and then it went to 10,000. It really doesn't matter whether it's 600 or 10,000. I would say the number of accounts that qualify for 10,000. Probably is almost equal to the number that would qualify for 600. The difference would be negligible, and so it really didn't matter. That isn't gone either. Remember, that's still up in the air. If it were up to the administration, we'd be doing that now. But so the GOP. So let's read. There's a couple good stories about this. One's from the a Republican representative in the budget committee, and another is just a reporter for the Washington Examiner. So let's do that. Let's talk about that. Well, let's not do that. I always forget to take that down. So there we go. I took it down. Well, I thought I took it down. Oh well, what happened? Well, let's go back. I don't know why I'm not getting. Well, let's go to the story. I don't know what's going on with that. Why that's not working. Let's go to the. This is a live broadcast, and sometimes things happen on these live broadcasts that you can't control. So let's find out why that is. Input 5. I don't know if I can do what I can do to make that work. What I can do is I can go remote. Let's try that. And we can go to the remote. I have to start. I don't know. It was working before I come on, so I don't know what's going on there. See if we can plug that in. Should be plugged in. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? I certainly don't know. Well, let's read this story. I could do it from here. Republicans are mobilizing for an escalating and prolonged battle against the IRS and its Democratic-backed plans to hire tens of thousands of more employees with money from the climate and health bill signed by President Joe Biden. It actually wasn't the climate and health bill, right? That bill was called the Inflation Reduction Act. Nobody wants to call it that because it really doesn't reduce inflation, does it? So nobody wants to call it that. It's a climate change bill, and it is that too. I grant that it is that too. I'm still trying to find out why I can't see my screen on this, but it is what it is. Okay. The GOP hopes to use public skepticism of adding funding for the tax agency to win back the House and even the Senate. Even the Senate. From there, the party hopes to use control of congressional committees to investigate and oversee the IRS. Isn't that their job? Shouldn't they oversee all of this? Isn't that what their job is? It make it sound like so nefarious, like it's the worst thing in the world that could happen, when in fact it's what's supposed to happen. Although the GOP hopes to use it is plotting legislation to defund it or rein it in, as is Congress's prerogative, isn't it? I'm trying to see if I can pull it up here on this one. Then we can move it on there. While opportunities to enact such measures will limit while Biden is in office, Republicans are planning for legislation in 2025 and sound open to the possibility of risking a government shutdown as leverage to extract reforms in the meantime. They have the leverage. They should be able to use the leverage. See if I can. I think I'm obsessing about it, but I probably shouldn't. I probably should just read it. But that's the way it works. They have the leverage. They should be able to use the leverage. That was a live show there. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We'll find out where we are. Get rid of this. Let me do that for a minute. There we go. Although the Republican Party has been hostile to IRS for decades, because they've been hostile to the GOP for decades, haven't they? I believe that they have. Where are we now? Well, it looks like nothing I do is going to work. Nothing I do is going to work. What the heck is going on there? I don't know. I hate when that happens because it was working right before I went on, and then all of a sudden it stops working. It doesn't make sense. So what can we do? Well, that's what we can do. See if it changes. Okay. There it is. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. The first which, according to the 2021 Treasury report, see, the first is the $80 billion influx of funding to the IRS, which, according to the 2021 Treasury report, could translate to 87,000 new employees over the decade. The funding was approved as a revenue raiser in the Partisan Inflation Reduction Act. The second is the still unexplained leak last year of the tax returns of thousands of nation's wealthiest people. Am I reading a different story? No, I'm reading the same story. But now the GOP is more focused than ever on reining in the IRS. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California, posed to be Speaker of the House if Republicans win in November, said in September that reversing Democrats' efforts to fund the IRS would be the number one priority for his party. On that very first day that we're sworn in, we'll see that it all changes, said the California Republican, because on our very first bill, we're going to repeal 87,000 IRS agents. Our job is to work for you, not go after you. Our job is to make America stronger. I agree with that, but it probably won't go very far. The issue has been a salient one with voters in the lead up to the midterm elections. Of all the provisions included in the Democratic Climate and Health Bill, the IRS funding has been used to attack the administration the most and appears to do well, at least given the amount of money that has poured into the line of attack. An ad impact analysis from early this month found that since the start of August, GOP groups and candidates have spent more than $12 million on the airing of about 24,000 ads warning about the mass hiring of IRS employees. In Washington, Kelly's gone kind of soft, blared a National Republican Senatorial Committee attack against Senator Mark Kelly. He went along with nearly $300 billion less in Medicare spending for seniors, 87,000 IRS workers, enough to fill Sun Devil Stadium. Well, that's true. It is worth noting that the IRS has pushed back on the characterization that is simply adding 87,000 more workers, given that it expects more than half of the 80,000 employees to retire over the next 5 years. And their replacements are already in the budget. That 87,000 comes from the Treasury analysis of the $80 billion, not from how much the IRS says. So the IRS, this is just misleading. It is true that some people are retiring, but it is also true. It is also true that the budget is already going to pay for that. So they're misleading us. All three Republicans vying for the open spot on the tax-writing House Ways and Means Committee told the Washington Examiner that they would plan aggressive oversight of the IRS. Shouldn't they? The IRS funding proposal is the only section of the legislation of which most voters disapprove than approve, according to Politico Morning Consult survey. All three candidates said it is an issue that resonates with voters and has generated concern. The first thing is we've got to get over and do our work, and that means having some hearings and really figuring out exactly where these 87,000 agents are going and where all the money is going from that standpoint. Adrian Smith has already introduced legislation to defund the Biden administration's plan to beef up the IRS workforce. All three running for the chairmanship declined to rule out blocking government funding, as has been done during budget battles in the past, in order to claw back the IRS funding and hiring, although none committed to such a tactic. Let me tell you, we're going to have to take a look at ways to be effective. And it's going to be strong, yet flexible. But we need to defund this $80 billion. How do we do it? I'll leave it up to the leadership to decide what's best with that. But American people want this $80 billion eliminated and defunded. Alex Content, the GOP strategist and the partner at Firehouse Strategies, said IRS funding could be the subject of high-stakes negotiating over legislation that must pass, such as bills keeping the government open or a measure to raise the federal debt ceiling. Nobody likes the IRS, and so politically, it's just going to be very difficult for the Biden administration to draw a line in the sand on IRS funding. Jason Rowe, a veteran Republican consultant, told the Washington Examiner a Republican majority would prioritize rolling back Biden's IRS initiatives. Going back to the symbolism of the IRS to conservatives, to me, I think the IRS could be the first target of oversight when the new Congress is sworn in January. The war against the IRS will go deeper than just funding. Hearings into the leaks of tax records and other issues, for instance, the finding that the IRS destroyed data for some 30 million paper-filled information return documents, should be expected. The GOP should use oversight hearings to draw a contrast for voters wondering why the same questions weren't asked while Democrats were in power, said Grover Norquist, the head of the anti-tax group Americans for Tax Reform. I think they're terribly vulnerable, Norquist said of the IRS. We know scandals exist. We know the Democrats didn't look into it. He said the Republicans could hold appropriations to the IRS hostage until it conducts hearings. And if some individuals won't testify, they could vow to not give the agency a penny more until lawmakers get answers to their questions. Why would we give them $80 billion when there are these unanswered questions of corruption? Well, that's a very good question. And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. So I have another story, but my system is quacky today. So quacky, whatever. So that's why we're not going to do it. So remember, we're going to ask you to like and subscribe. We need your help to get this content out. I'm not always working this bad. So we need you to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. And remember, if you have an IRS problem, if you have unfiled tax returns, and you don't know what to do, the first thing you should do is get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. I will pay for the printing. You pay for the shipping and handling. And not only will you get the book, but there's a lot of free offers. Go to freeirsbook.com. You'll see the free offers there. So go there. And thank you so much for watching here today. And tomorrow we're out on Lake Michigan on a cruise with the Better Business Bureau. I hope maybe you'll be out there. If you're out there, tap me on the shoulder, say hello. Love to hear from you. So thanks so much for joining us here today, and we'll see you on Friday. We'll see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Out.